Okay, I just saw They Will Kill You, and I need to take a second, because what the hell did I just watch? Like, I'm not even kidding. This is one of those films where you finish it and you're just kind of staring into space after it's finished, because you're just like, what? Replaying moments in your head and being like, yeah, that actually happened. They really put that in the film. And I love when a movie does that. But I do also get that this is very much your mileage may vary kind of film. So yeah, this is going to be completely spoiler free, just one sort of long ramble, because I've got a lot to unpack here. So going into this, my expectations were basically non-existent. I didn't really have any. The only thing I had seen was the trailer, and that looked absolutely insane. Like proper, unhinged, over-the-top, chaotic madness. And usually when a trailer leans that hard into that sort of energy, there's always that risk of the film either A, not actually going that far, or B, goes that far but actually loses itself in the process. And I was kind of just bracing myself for one of those outcomes. But I will say right now, this film absolutely commits, like completely. Before I go any further, I'll just give you the quick synopsis just so you know what the film is actually about. A woman answers a help wanted ad to be a housekeeper in a mysterious high-rise in New York City, not realising she's entering a community that has seen a number of disappearances over the years, and maybe, just maybe, be under the grip of a satanic cult. And even that, I feel like that sounds way more straightforward than actual movie itself is. Because the experience of watching it is just something else entirely. Because yes, that is technically the plot of the film, but this isn't really a plot-driven film. It's more about its energy and tone and its vibe. This is a throw everything at the wall and see what sticks kind of film. But the difference here is a lot of it actually does stick. So yeah, I'm just going to say this super early on, just so you know what kind of review this is going to be. If this doesn't go down as the craziest movie of 2026, I will be genuinely shocked. Like, genuinely, because this thing is actually mad. And I mean that in the most complimentary way possible. This is the kind of film that feels like it was made with zero restraint. Like, nobody stepped in halfway through and was like, maybe dial it back a bit. And thank God they didn't, because that's what makes this film stand out so much. The best comparison I came back to while watching it, and I know this is a bit of a weird mashup, but it genuinely feels like a Quentin Tarantino and Sam Raimi brainchild. Like, imagine those two creative energies coming together. You've got this hyper stylized, almost cool to the point of being kind of unreal kind of filmmaking on one side, and then on the other side you've got this chaotic horror comedy that is just fully committing into the splatter filled madness. And instead of trying to balance those two elements, it just amplifies them. Everything is turned up to 11. Actually, no, that's a lie. Everything is turned up to 15. And I respect the hell out of that, because this is not the kind of film I was expecting to get in 2026. It almost feels like a specific throwback to a very specific kind of filmmaking, where the goal isn't to be polished and safe, but to be loud and memorable. And whether you like it or not, whatever your thoughts are, you are going to remember this film. Now, I want to talk about the camera work really quick, because that is easily one of the standout elements. When I say the camera work is insane, I'm not exaggerating. It is constantly doing something. There is not a single scene, a single second in the film where the camera is just kind of sitting there and behaving itself. It's always moving, always shifting, always trying something new. You've got these crazy, sweeping moments that almost feel dizzying at times. These sudden snap zooms, these angles that feel completely unnatural, but in a way that adds tension and weirdness to the situation. And what I love is it doesn't feel lazy, even when it's being absolutely batshit. It feels deliberate. It feels like every shot has been thought out in terms of, okay, how can we make this different? How can we make this interesting? How are we going to make this scene stand out? And most of the time, the answer they land on is completely unhinged, but it works. There were genuinely numerous times in the film where I just caught myself smiling because of how creative it got. Like, you can tell the filmmakers were just kind of having fun with it. And that energy is contagious. You can feel it as an audience member. Now, this does lead into one of my main criticisms with the film. This is very style over substance. There's no getting around that. If you're coming into this expecting a deep layered story with complex characters and deep themes, then you're probably going to be a bit disappointed, because the story is pretty thin. It's quite generic when you actually properly just strip it back. You've seen this kind of setup before: the mysterious building, the strange characters, the sense that something is very wrong underneath the surface. It's familiar territory, and the film never tries to elevate that in some sort of interesting way. But again, that doesn't feel like it's the point. It feels like the story is just a framework. It feels like the story is there just to move from one insane set piece to the next. And if you accept that, it does become a lot easier to respect and enjoy what the film is trying to do, which is just to entertain you in the most over-the-top way. And for me, it worked more often than it didn't. Now let's talk about the action, because oh yeah, this is where the film really shines. The action sequences are incredible, like genuinely some of the most entertaining moments in the entire film. They are so heightened, so over the top, and so exaggerated, but they're done with such precision and confidence that you just can't help but get swept up in it. The choreography is great. Everything feels intentional. Every moment, every hit, every moment of impact, it's all designed to be as satisfying and as visually striking as possible. And then there's the violence. This thing does not mess around. It goes all in. I mentioned earlier how this feels like the brainchild of Tarantino and Sam Raimi. Well, to elaborate on that, this feels like Kill Bill and Evil Dead combined. Make of that what you will, but I had a blast with it. We're talking brutal kills, insane amounts of blood, moments that are so excessive they loop around to eventually being funny. And I think that's exactly what they were going for. It's the kind of stylized violence that isn't supposed to be disturbing in a realistic sense. It's meant to be shocking, entertaining, and a little bit ridiculous. And honestly, I think it works. There were so many moments in the film where I just laughed out loud because of how far they actually pushed it. Like, you can feel the film winking at you and just going, yeah, we know it's ridiculous, just go with it. And I did. I fully went with it. Now, tone-wise, this is where it can get a little divisive, because like I said, this film can get pretty goofy. There are a lot of moments where it leans very heavily into comedy, and for the most part, I actually think most of the comedy lands. Not every joke lands, obviously. There were moments where I was like, oh, that didn't work. But overall, I think it balanced that tone pretty well. It never feels like it's accidentally funny. It always feels intentional. It feels like the film knows exactly when to push things into slightly absurd territory. Because if I'm being honest, I think if this film took itself too seriously, it would immediately fall apart. It needs that sense of humour, it needs that awareness. And I think it has it. Now, performances. Without going into spoilers, I do want to touch on this briefly. What I will say is that the performances fit the tone of the film really well. They match that heightened, slightly exaggerated style the film's going for. This isn't a film where everyone's going for a grounded, supernaturalistic kind of take. This isn't going to win awards or anything, and that's okay. It just works for what this film is. And especially in a film like this, where everything else is dialed up so high, you kind of need those performances to meet at that level. And I think they do. So yeah. Overall, this is one of those films where I can understand both sides of the reaction. I can absolutely see people watching this and thinking it's too much, too chaotic, too style heavy without any substance. And honestly, that is a valid criticism. But sometimes you just want a movie that grabs you by the scruff, throws you around for a couple hours, and you just end up leaving thinking, that was wild. And this absolutely does that. So yeah, good movie. Not for everyone though, but if you're in the mood for something stylish, chaotic, violent, and just completely over the top, you might have a really good time with this. And honestly, I do kind of want to watch it again, because I feel like there's so much going on all at once that I probably did miss a few bits here and there in the first time I watched it. And that's always a good sign in my opinion. But anyway, that's just my opinion. I'd love to know, what did you think of They Will Kill You? Did you have fun with it, or was it just totally not your thing? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know down below. I'd love to chat about it with you. But yeah, man, I think we can all agree, even if you didn't like it, that this movie is insane. And it sure as hell is going to be sticking around in my brain for a while. But yeah, man, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Like, subscribe, and go watch some movies. I'll see you in the next one.